The deep space around Kepler 442 was quiet and dark, filled with nothing but distant stars and floating rocks. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance, watching the empty space through the main screen. His ship had been out here for 3 months looking for new planets that humans could live on someday. Jake was tired but happy. The mission was going well. They had found 2 planets that might work for human colonies, and the crew was in good spirits. The ship was older but reliable, and his people knew their jobs. Jake had commanded the Defiance for 5 years, and he trusted every person on board. "Captain," called Lisa Parker from her station. She was the communications officer, a young woman with bright eyes who always smiled when she worked. "I'm getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" Lisa pointed at her screen. "Multiple contacts, sir. Big ones. They just appeared about 2 million kilometers out." She paused and looked worried. "Captain, these ships are huge. Much bigger than anything we have." The bridge went quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. Jake felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "How many ships, Lisa?" 12, sir. Maybe more. They're moving toward us." Jake nodded and walked back to his command chair. This was it. This was what every human had wondered about for hundreds of years. First contact with aliens. He had dreamed about this moment, but now that it was here, he felt nervous and excited at the same time. "All hands, this is the captain." Jake spoke into the ship's communication system. "We have contact with unknown vessels. This is not a drill. All departments report ready status." Around the bridge, his crew began working faster. Ryan Cooper, the chief engineer, checked his systems from the engineering station. Tony Blake, the weapons officer, powered up the ship's defensive systems. Sam Johnson, the navigator, started plotting escape routes just in case. Jake watched his people work and felt proud. They were scared, he could tell, but they were doing their jobs. That was what good crews did. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice tight with excitement. "They're trying to communicate with us." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen changed from showing empty space to showing something that made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. An alien face looked back at them. It was gray and smooth with large black eyes and no nose. When it spoke, its voice was cold and hard. "Unknown vessel," the alien said. "You will identify yourselves immediately." Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. This was the most important moment in human history, and he wanted to get it right. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship UHS Defiance. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations with your people." The alien's face did not change. "I am War Commander Thexvar of the Zelithran Empire. You have entered our space without permission. This is an act of war." Jake felt his stomach drop. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. "War Commander, we had no knowledge that this space belonged to anyone. We meant no harm. Perhaps we can discuss this peacefully." Thexvar made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not a nice sound. "Your species is weak. You speak of peace when you should surrender. The Zelithran Empire has conquered 47 worlds. Your world will be the 48th. "Now wait just a minute," Jake said, feeling anger rise in his chest. "You don't know anything about humans. We're explorers, not conquerors. We can work together." "Humans." Thexvar repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Another primitive species that thinks words can stop laser cannons. You have 30 seconds to surrender your ship or we will destroy you." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. Lisa looked scared but determined. Ryan was checking his weapon systems. Tony had his hand on the firing controls. Sam was ready to run if needed. "War Commander," Jake said, trying one more time. "We don't want to fight, but we won't surrender either. Humans don't give up that easy." Thexvar's black eyes seemed to grow darker. "Then you will die like all the others who defied the Empire." The screen went black. For a moment, the bridge was completely quiet. Then Lisa spoke up. "Captain, they're powering weapons. All 12 ships." Jake sat down in his command chair and took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, about his wife and kids back home, about all the humans who were counting on missions like this to find new homes among the stars. He thought about how his crew had worked so hard to get this far. Then something strange happened. Instead of feeling more scared, Jake started to feel something else. It was excitement. It was the same feeling he got when he was younger and someone told him he couldn't do something. It was the feeling that made him want to prove them wrong. "Well," Jake said, and he could hear his own voice getting stronger. "I guess we're going to find out what humans are really made of." He looked at his crew and saw something amazing. They were scared, yes, but they were also getting that same look in their eyes. Lisa was checking her communication equipment with quick, efficient movements. Ryan was bringing all ship systems to full power. Tony was targeting the alien ships with a concentration that was almost scary. "Captain," Ryan called from his station, "all systems are running hot. We're ready for whatever they throw at us." "Good," Jake said. "Lisa, send a message back to Earth. Tell them we made contact and tell them we're about to show these aliens what happens when you mess with humans." "Yes, sir," Lisa said, and Jake could swear he heard excitement in her voice too. These first alien laser blast hit their shields and the ship shook hard. Emergency lights came on and alarms started ringing. But instead of panic, something else happened on the bridge. Tony Blake looked at his targeting screen and grinned. "Got you," he whispered, and fired back. The Defiance's weapons were much smaller than the alien ships, but Tony's shot hit exactly where he aimed it. One of the alien vessels lost its forward shields. "Nice shot," Jake said, and he realized he was smiling too. More laser blasts hit their ship. The lights flickered, and the deck shook under their feet. But the crew kept working and they kept smiling. It was like they had found something they didn't know they were looking for. "Captain," Sam called out. "3 more alien ships are coming, in from the left. This is going to get really interesting." Jake looked at his navigator and saw that Sam was grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. The man was flying the ship through a battle zone like he was playing the most exciting game of his life. "Interesting," Jake repeated. "Yeah, Sam, I think that's exactly the right word." Outside, in the cold darkness of space, 12 alien warships were attacking one small human exploration vessel. The aliens expected the humans to be terrified, to surrender, or to die quickly. They had no idea what they were really dealing with. The battle for humanity's future had begun, and the humans were just getting started. The battle had been going on for 20 minutes, and War Commander Thexavar was starting to feel confused. He stood on the command deck of his flagship watching the tactical display that showed the human ship still fighting. This was not how battles usually went. "Status report," Thexavar demanded from his weapons officer. "Sir, the human vessel has taken significant damage, but they continue to fight. Their weapons are primitive, but their accuracy is troubling." Thexavar stared at the display. In 47 previous conquests, enemy ships either surrendered immediately when faced with Zelithran firepower, or they were destroyed within minutes. This small human ship should have been space dust by now. "What are they doing?" he asked. His communications officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we are monitoring their internal communications. The behavior is most unusual. Show me." The main screen switched to show the bridge of the human ship. Thexavar watched in amazement as the human weapons officer, Tony Blake, worked at his station with what could only be described as joy. The human was actually smiling as he fired weapons at ships that could destroy him. "Got another one," Tony said happily, as his shot disabled an alien sensor array. "Man, this is better than any video game I ever played." Thexavar turned to his communications officer. "Video game? What is a video game?" "Unknown, sir. Human language is still being analyzed." On the screen, they watched Captain Morrison walk calmly around his bridge, giving orders like he was planning a dinner party instead of fighting for his life. When another blast shook his ship and sparks flew from a control panel, the human captain just nodded and said, "Ryan, can you fix that?" The chief engineer, Ryan Cooper, looked up from under a damaged console. His face was dirty, and he had a cut on his forehead, but he was grinning. Already on it, Captain. This old girl's got plenty of fight left in her. Thexvar had never seen anything like it. When Zelithran ships took damage, crews became frightened and efficiency dropped. These humans seemed to work better when things got dangerous. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human ship is changing course. They appear to be charging directly at us. Impossible, Thexvar said. That would be suicide. But the human ship was indeed flying straight toward the much larger Zelithran flagship. On the communication channel, they could hear the human navigator Sam Johnson giving course corrections. Okay, people, we're going for a close pass on the big one, Sam announced cheerfully. Everyone hold on to something. This is going to be fun. Fun. The human had called a suicide attack fun. All weapons target the approaching vessel, Thexvar ordered. Destroy it now. 6 Zelithran ships focused their fire on the Defiance. The small human ship's shields flared and failed, and hull plates began melting under the intense heat. Any sane crew would have turned away or ejected in escape pods. Instead, the humans flew closer. Now, Tony, Captain Morrison said calmly. The human ship fired everything it had at point-blank range directly into the Zelithran flagship's shield generators. The massive alien ship shuddered as its protective barriers flickered and died. Yahoo! Tony Blake shouted over the communication channel. Did you see that? We just killed a battleship's shields with a survey ship. The Defiance spun away from the flagship, damaged but still flying. Thexvar felt something he had not experienced in many years. He felt worried. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving more transmissions from the human vessel. Let me hear them. What Thexvar heard made no sense to him. The humans were talking to each other like old friends discussing a hobby. Lisa Parker, the communications officer, was coordinating damage reports while humming what sounded like music. Medical to bridge, came a female voice. Kate here. Got 3 injured, nothing serious. Jimmy's got a broken arm, but he says he can still work his station. Oh, and somebody needs to fix the coffee machine. We're going to need caffeine if this keeps up. Coffee machine. In the middle of a life and death battle, these creatures were worried about a beverage dispenser. Captain, came another voice. This is Chief Peterson down in engineering. We've got hull breaches on decks 4 and 6, but we've sealed them. The good news is I finally figured out that weird noise the engine was making. Turns out we just needed a good fight to shake everything loose. The human chief engineer was happy that battle damage had fixed a mechanical problem. Thexvar turned to his science officer. What is wrong with these creatures? Are they mentally defective? Sir, their brain patterns appear normal for their species. They seem to be experiencing what their language calls excitement and enjoyment. Enjoyment? They are enjoying this? Yes, sir. Their stress hormones are elevated, but so are chemicals associated with pleasure and satisfaction. On the tactical display, 3 more human ships appeared at the edge of sensor range. Thexvar had been expecting reinforcements, but now he was not sure he wanted to face more of these strange beings. Sir, incoming transmission from the approaching human vessels. Show me. A new human face appeared on the screen. This one was older with gray hair and calm eyes. This is Admiral Rick Stevens aboard the UHS Thunderstrike. Defiance, what's your status? Captain Morrison's voice came back immediately. Admiral, we're having a great time out here. These aliens pack a punch, but their tactics are pretty predictable. We've learned some interesting things about their shield systems. Excellent, Admiral Stevens replied. My boys are itching for some action. Mind if we join the party? Party. The human admiral had called a space battle a party. Thexvar watched, in growing alarm as the human reinforcements spread out in a formation that made no tactical sense. 3 ships against 12, and they were acting like they had already won. Admiral, Captain Morrison continued, you should know these Zelithrans don't seem to understand improvisation. They're good at straight-up shooting, but they get confused when you do something unexpected. Copy that, Jake. Let's show them some human creativity. The 3 new human ships attacked in ways that violated every rule of space combat Thexvar had ever learned. One ship flew upside down while spinning, making it impossible to predict where it would be when you fired. Another ship flew in a zigzag pattern while broadcasting what sounded like music. The 3rd ship actually shut off its engines and drifted, like a piece of space junk, then suddenly powered up and attacked from an angle no one expected. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with obvious confusion. The humans appear to be employing random chaos as a strategy. But it was working. Zelithran, gunners trained to fight enemies who followed logical patterns, could not hit targets that did not behave logically. Meanwhile, human weapons found their marks with disturbing accuracy. Worse, the humans were talking to each other constantly, and their conversations made Thexvar's head hurt. "Nice move, Wildcard," one pilot said to another. "Thanks, Ace. Hey, does this remind you of that old movie? The one with the space fighters?" "Oh yeah, the one where the farm boy blows up the space station?" "Classic. Think we can pull off that trench run maneuver?" "Only one way to find out. Hey, Thunderstrike, want to try something really stupid?" Admiral Stevens's voice came back laughing. "Son, I've been waiting my whole career for someone to ask me that question." Thexvar realized that somehow, impossibly, his superior force was losing to these insane creatures who treated warfare like entertainment, and the humans were just getting started. Admiral Rick Stevens stood on the bridge of the Thunderstrike, watching the battle unfold with the eye of someone who had been fighting in space for 30 years. What he saw made him proud and worried at the same time. The Defiance was badly damaged but still fighting, and now his small fleet had to face 12 alien warships. But Rick had not gotten to be an admiral by playing it safe. "All ships, this is Stevens," he spoke into his communication system. "We're outnumbered 4-1, outgunned by about 10-1, and these aliens think they can just roll over humanity." He paused and smiled. "I think it's time we showed them why that's a bad idea." Captain Ben Walsh, commanding the UHS Tornado, came back over the radio. "Admiral, my tactical computer is having a nervous breakdown trying to figure out optimal attack patterns against these ships." "Then turn off the computer, Ben," Rick replied. "Sometimes the best tactics are the ones that don't make sense." His own bridge, Rick looked at his crew. They were scared, he could tell, but they were also excited. His weapons officer, a young man named Danny Grin, was practically bouncing in his chair. "Sir," Danny said, "request permission to try something really crazy." "Granted," Rick said without hesitation. "What do you have in mind?" "Well, sir, I noticed their ships are really big and heavily armored, but they don't seem to expect anyone to get close. What if we ram one of them?" Rick's chief engineer, Beth Martinez, looked up from her station. "Sir, if we reinforce the forward hull and transfer all power to structural integrity, we could probably survive a collision with one of their smaller ships." "Survive?" Rick asked. "Maybe," Beth grinned, "but it would definitely ruin their day." Rick thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Do it. Beth, start reinforcing the hull. Danny, pick your target, navigation, plot a ramming course." His navigation officer, Carl Roberts, started laughing as he worked on the course calculations. "Sir, this is either brilliant or completely insane." "Carl," Rick said, "in my experience, the best plans are usually both." Across the battle zone, the aliens were calling for reinforcements. War Commander Thexvar had contacted the Zelithran High Command and explained the situation. The response had been swift and overwhelming. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the subjugation fleet is arriving." Thexvar felt relief as 20 more Zelithran warships dropped out of hyperspace. 32 ships against 4 humans. Even these crazy creatures could not overcome those odds. "All ships," Thexvar ordered, "surround the human vessels. This ends now." But the humans had other ideas. "Admiral," Captain Morrison's voice came over the radio. "Looks like they brought friends." "I see them, Jake," Rick replied. "New plan. Everyone. The Thunderstrike is going to ram that cruiser on the left. When we do, everyone else hit them with everything you've got." "Sir," came a worried voice from one of the other ships. "That's suicide." "Son," Rick said calmly, "suicide is when you do something stupid that gets you killed for no reason. This is what we call a tactical sacrifice with strategic benefits, completely different thing." The Thunderstrike accelerated toward the alien cruiser at maximum speed. In the engineering section, Beth Martinez was doing things to the ship's structure that the designers never intended. She had rerouted power from weapons, life support, and artificial gravity to strengthen the forward hull. "Beth," Rick called down to engineering, "how are we looking?" Sir, I've turned our ship into basically a very expensive missile with people inside it. When we hit them, it's going to hurt both of us a lot. But will we survive? Ask me in about 30 seconds, Beth replied cheerfully. The alien cruiser tried to turn away, but it was too big and too slow. The thunderstrike hit it at nearly half the speed of light, and the result was spectacular. The alien ship's hull cracked open like an egg, and both vessels spun away from each other, trailing debris and atmosphere. Thunderstrike, report, Captain. Morrison called urgently. Rick picked himself up off the deck where the impact had thrown him. Half his bridge lights were out, and there was smoke everywhere, but his people were already getting back to work. We're alive, Rick announced. Ship's pretty beat up, but we're still flying, and I don't think that alien cruiser is going to bother anyone else today. Through the smoke and sparks, Rick could hear his crew laughing and cheering. Danny Green had a bloody nose but was grinning as he tried to get his weapons back online. Carl Roberts was plotting a new course while humming what sounded like a victory song. The other human ships used the confusion from the ramming attack to launch their own assaults. Captain Walsh on the Tornado had come up with his own creative solution to the odds problem. All ships, Walsh announced. I'm going to try something I saw in an old war movie. We're going to play dead. The Tornado suddenly went dark and stopped moving, floating in space like a derelict. The aliens, thinking they had destroyed another human ship, ignored it and focused on the remaining vessels. That was a mistake. When 3 alien ships moved past the destroyed Tornado, Walsh powered up every weapon on his ship and fired at point blank range into their engines. All 3 alien vessels lost power and began drifting helplessly. And that, Walsh announced happily, is why you should never trust a human who says he's giving up. But the real surprise came when the aliens tried to board the human ships. Thexvar had ordered boarding parties to capture the humans alive for interrogation. He wanted to understand how such a primitive species could fight so effectively. Marine. Commander Alex Turner was waiting for them on the Defiance. Alex had 20 Marines under his command, and they were facing over 100 alien warriors in powered armor. The odds were impossible, but Alex had been in impossible situations before. Okay, people, Alex told his Marines as they prepared for the alien boarding parties. These guys are bigger than us, stronger than us, and they have better armor. But they've never fought humans before, and that's going to be their problem. The aliens cut through the hull and poured into the ship's corridors. They expected to find terrified humans hiding in corners. Instead, they found Alex Turner and his Marines waiting for them with weapons, improvised explosives, and attitudes that made no sense. Welcome aboard, Alex called out cheerfully as the first aliens entered his section. Hope you don't mind if we skip the tour and go straight to the gift shop. He threw something that looked like a metal canister. The aliens, expecting a grenade, took cover. Instead, the canister opened and released a cloud of cleaning chemicals from the ship's maintenance supplies. While the aliens were coughing and trying to clear their vision, Alex's Marines attacked with everything from military rifles to kitchen knives to a potted plant that someone had grabbed from the mess hall. The aliens had trained for combat against other military forces. They had not trained for fighting humans who used anything and everything as weapons while making jokes and movie references. "Is that all you got?" shouted Marine Sergeant Kelly Murphy as she hit an alien with a fire extinguisher. "My grandmother hits harder than that, and she's been dead for 10 years. The boarding action turned into chaos as humans proved that they could be absolutely terrifying when they stopped worrying about rules and started focusing on winning. And in space around them, the battle continued to grow more intense and more impossible with each passing minute. The battle had been raging for 2 hours, and something strange was happening in the Zelithran fleet. War Commander Thexvar stood in his command center, listening to reports from his ship captains, and what he heard made his blood run cold. "Sir," Captain Vexistar reported from the cruiser Destroyer of Worlds. "My crew is requesting permission to withdraw from combat. They say the humans are not natural." "Explain," Thexvar demanded. "Sir, we have been fighting for over 100 rotations, and the humans keep getting stronger. When we damage their ships, they repair them with pieces of metal and wire. When we kill their crew members, the survivors fight harder. It is like they feed on destruction." Another captain's report came in immediately after. "War Commander, this is Captain Zalthex of the Painbringer. My boarding parties have retreated from the human vessels. The humans fight with cooking tools and cleaning supplies. One of my warriors was defeated by a human female using a container of liquid soap and a mop. Thexvar felt his confidence cracking. These are just primitive creatures. How can they be defeating our elite warriors? Sir, his intelligence officer spoke up. I have been monitoring human communications throughout the battle. I believe I understand the problem. Show me. The main screen displayed a recording of human radio chatter from the past hour. Thexvar listened in growing horror as he heard humans discussing the battle like it was entertainment. Hey, Chris, you see that move Jake pulled with the damaged engine? One pilot was saying to another. Yeah, that was beautiful. I'm going to try something like that on the next pass. Just remember to eject if it goes wrong. My wife will kill me if I have to explain to your wife why you got yourself blown up. Don't worry about it. This is the most fun I've had since flight school. Fun. The humans were having fun fighting a battle that should have destroyed them all. There's more, sir. The intelligence officer continued. Listen to this recording from their damaged flagship. Captain Morrison's voice came through clearly. Okay, everyone, we've lost main power. Artificial gravity is offline and we're leaking air from 6 different holes. On the bright side, we've learned that our ship can take a lot more punishment than the manual says it can. Captain, came the voice of the chief engineer. I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is our main engine is held together with metal tape and hope. The good news is I think I can make it go 20% faster than normal. How? Morrison asked. Well, sir, I'm going to bypass all the safety systems and run it so hot that it either gives us the speed we need or explodes and kills us all. Sounds reasonable, Morrison replied calmly. Do it. Thexvar turned off the recording. They are insane. They know they might die and they don't care. No, sir, his intelligence officer corrected. They do care. They care very much about winning. But they don't seem to fear death the way other species do. They treat it as just another problem to solve, as if to prove the point. One of the human ships on the tactical display suddenly accelerated to dangerous speeds, heading straight for a group of Zilithran vessels. The ship's engine was glowing so brightly it was visible even on long-range sensors. Sir, the tactical officer reported, the human ship's engine is operating at 140% of normal capacity. That should be impossible, unless you don't care if it explodes, Thexvar realized. The human ship, the UHS Tornado, flew through the middle of the alien formation like a rocket, firing everything it had in all directions. 3 Zilithran ships took heavy damage before. The Tornado's engine finally overloaded and shut down. Tornado, this is Morrison. What's your status? Captain Walsh's voice came back cheerful as always. Jake, we just broke every speed record in the book, and I think we invented some new ones. Engine's dead, but we're still breathing. My engineer says she can have us moving again in about 10 minutes. How? Morrison asked. She's going to hook up the coffee machine to the navigation system and see if caffeine can power a spaceship. Thexvar listened to this exchange and felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. He felt afraid. Not afraid of dying, but afraid of fighting an enemy that could not be understood or predicted. Sir, his communications officer announced. Incoming message from the human flagship. Put it through. Captain Morrison appeared on the screen. His uniform was torn. He had a bandage on his forehead, and there was smoke drifting behind him. But he was smiling. War Commander Thexvar, Morrison said politely. I wanted to thank you for the most interesting day my crew has had in years. We've learned a lot about your ships and your tactics. What do you want, human? I want to make you an offer. You can withdraw your forces now and we'll let you go. Or you can keep fighting, and we'll show you some of the things we haven't tried yet. Thexvar felt his anger rising. You are in no position to make offers. Your ships are damaged, your crews are exhausted, and you are still outnumbered. Morrison's smile got wider. War Commander, let me tell you something about humans. We do our best work when we're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options. That's when we get creative. You are bluffing. Am I? Morrison asked. Computer, show War Commander Thexvar Tactical Plan Omega. The screen split to show a diagram that made Thexvar's blood freeze. The humans had been secretly moving their damaged ships into position around the Zilithran fleet. Ships that the aliens thought were helpless were actually setting up for a coordinated attack. You see, Morrison explained, while you were focused on the ships that were still shooting at you, we were moving the ones you thought were out of the fight. Turns out a ship doesn't need engines to be dangerous if you're willing to let it drift into the right position. Impossible, Thexvar whispered. Those ships are too damaged to fight. War Commander, you still don't understand humans very well. We don't need our ships to be perfect to make them deadly. We just need them to explode at the right time and in the right place. On the tactical display, Thexvar could see it now. The humans had turned their own damaged vessels into guided bombs, using emergency thrusters to position them throughout the Zelithron formation. If they detonated simultaneously, they would destroy most of his fleet. This is madness, Thexvar said. You would sacrifice your own ships and crews? War Commander, Morrison replied. Our crews volunteered for this mission knowing they might not come home. But the funny thing is, they're not planning to die today. They're planning to win. Ariu, that moment, the most impossible thing of all happened. Chris Evans, the pilot they called Wildcard, came on the radio from his badly damaged fighter. Hey, Admiral Stevens, Chris announced cheerfully. I just had a crazy idea. What if we don't blow up our ships? I'm listening, Stevens replied. What, if instead we use them as boarding platforms? Ram them into the alien ships, but instead of exploding, we have our people jump over and take their ships? There was a moment of silence on the human communication channels. Then Admiral Stevens started laughing. Son, Stevens said, that might be the most insane idea I've ever heard. Let's do it. Thexvar realized that he was facing an enemy that would never surrender, never retreat, and never stop finding new ways to turn disaster into victory. And they were having the time of their lives doing it. The final phase of the battle began with something no one in the Zelithran Empire had ever seen before. Instead of surrendering or retreating, the humans launched their most impossible plan yet. All ships, this is Admiral Stevens, Rick announced, over the radio. Operation Crazy Train is a go. Remember, the goal is not to destroy their ships but to take them. Try not to break anything we might want to keep. War Commander Thexvar watched in horror as the damaged human vessels changed course and headed directly for his ships. But instead of exploding on impact, the human ships used their final engine power to lock onto Zelithran hulls like giant space parasites. Sir, his tactical officer reported with obvious confusion, the humans are cutting through our hull plating. They appear to be attempting to board us. With what? Thexvar demanded. Their ships are barely functional. Sir, they're using cutting tools, welding equipment, and what appears to be kitchen utensils. The first human to board Thexvar's flagship was Marine Commander Alex Turner. He cut through the hull with a plasma torch in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. When he stepped into the Zelithran corridor, he looked around like a tourist, visiting a museum. Nice ship, Alex said to the three alien warriors who were pointing weapons at him. Mind if I look around? The aliens fired their energy weapons. Alex rolled behind a bulkhead and came up firing his rifle. But what confused the aliens was that he was still holding his coffee cup and he was still smiling. You know, Alex called out as laser bolts flew past his head. This hallway would look great with some earth plants. Maybe a nice fern in that corner. Behind him, more humans poured through the hole in the hull. They spread out through the ship, like they owned the place, chatting with each other about the alien architecture and fighting Zelithran warriors at the same time. Hey, Sergeant Murphy, Alex called to one of his Marines. Check out these control panels. Think we can figure out how to work them? Kelly Murphy ducked under an alien's weapon swing and hit him with her rifle stock. Probably, sir. My kid has video games more complicated than this. Throughout the Zelithran fleet, the same scene was playing out. Human boarding parties were taking over alien ships not through superior firepower, but through sheer determination and the ability to treat everything like an interesting puzzle to solve. On the bridge of his flagship, Thexvar received reports that made less sense with each passing minute. Sir, the humans have taken control of engineering on Deck 12. They say they're going to improve our engine efficiency. Sir, human forces have captured the armory. They're examining our weapons and making what sound like shopping lists. Sir, the humans have reached the mess hall. They're trying our food and offering to trade recipes. Thexvar felt his last shred of military pride crumble as he listened to human voices coming through his ship's communication system. "Hey, Captain Morrison," came a cheerful voice. "This is Alex Turner aboard the alien flagship. You're not going to believe what these guys keep in their computer system." "What did you find, Alex?" "Records of all 47 worlds they conquered. Detailed information about every species they've defeated, including exactly how they broke each civilization's will to fight." There was a pause on the communication channel. Then Captain Morrison's voice came back, and for the first time since the battle began, he sounded angry. "Alex, I want you to copy all of that information. Every bit of it." "Already on it, Captain. But sir, I think you should know something else. According to these records, they've never had a species fight back for more than 6 hours. Most surrendered in the first 30 minutes. How long have we been fighting, Alex?" 3 hours and 47 minutes, sir. And I haven't heard anyone mention surrendering." Thexvar knew it was over. His mighty fleet was being taken apart, piece by humans who treated war like a sport and defeat like a temporary inconvenience. He activated his personal communication system. "Captain Morrison," he called out. "I'm here, War Commander. Ready to discuss terms?" "I do not understand your species," Thexvar said. "We have superior technology, superior numbers, superior firepower. How are you defeating us?" Morrison's image appeared on the screen. He was sitting in his damaged command chair, surrounded by his crew who were working to repair their ship while simultaneously coordinating the capture of an entire alien fleet. "War Commander," Morrison said thoughtfully, "I think the problem is that you see war as something to be won quickly and efficiently. You try to break your enemy's spirit so they'll give up without much of a fight. Yes, it is the smart way to conduct warfare." "Maybe," Morrison agreed, "but humans don't really think about giving up. When things get bad, we get stubborn. When things get worse, we get creative. And when things get impossible, we get dangerous." Thexvar looked around his bridge. Half his crew had already been captured by humans who had somehow made their way through a ship designed to be impenetrable. The other half were too frightened to fight effectively. "What do you want?" Thexvar asked. "First, I want you to contact every world your empire has conquered and tell them they're free. Second, I want you to go back to your home world and explain to your leaders that Earth is not available for conquest. Third, I want you to spread the word to every other alien empire out there that humans are now part of the galactic community, and we're not going away." "And if I refuse?" Morrison smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "War Commander, you've seen what we can do when we're trying to be friendly and avoid casualties. Do you really want to find out what happens when we get serious?" Thexvar thought about his conquered fleet, his demoralized crews, and the humans, who were probably already figuring out how to improve Zelithran technology. He thought about going home and explaining to the High Command how he had lost an entire subjugation fleet to 4 human ships. Most of all, he thought about the look in the humans' eyes during the battle. They had never looked desperate or defeated. They had looked like they were having the best day of their lives. "I agree to your terms," Thexvar said quietly. "Excellent," Morrison replied. "Oh, and War Commander? You might want to update your military manuals. The next time the Zelithran Empire meets humans in battle, we'll know all your tactics, we'll have studied your technology, and we'll have had time to come up with even crazier ideas." "There will be no next time," Thexvar promised. "Good choice." 3 days later, news of the Battle of Kepler 442 spread throughout the galaxy. The story was always the same, no matter which species told it. A small human fleet had defeated a vastly superior alien force, not through advanced technology or superior numbers, but through sheer bloody-minded refusal to accept defeat. The humans had fought like they were enjoying themselves. They had turned their disadvantages into advantages, their damaged ships into weapons, and their desperate situation into an opportunity to show the galaxy what human creativity could accomplish. Within a month, every major alien civilization had updated their first contact protocols. The new rule was simple: if you meet humans, be polite. On Earth, Admiral Stevens finished his official report of the battle and leaned back in his chair. His aide, a young officer named Lieutenant Davis, looked up from reading the preliminary accounts. "Sir," Davis said, "some of the things in these reports seem almost impossible to believe." Stevens smiled. "Lieutenant, let me tell you something about humans. When someone tells us something is impossible, we take that as a personal challenge. And somewhere in the deep dark of space, other alien empires were learning that lesson too.